There is a moment, and every person who has ever built something from nothing knows this moment, where you are standing at the edge of everything you have ever wanted, and the only thing between you and it is one decision you are terrified to make. This is the story of a man who made that decision. Not once, but 7 times. And what it cost him, and what it gave him, and why, even now, he would not change a single thing. Part 1. The beginning of nothing. Nathan Cole was 26 years old when he lost his job, his apartment, and his girlfriend in the same week. Not in that order. The girlfriend left on Monday. The job went on Wednesday. The apartment, because the apartment had been in her name, was gone by Friday. By Sunday evening, Nathan was sitting on a plastic chair in his older brother's spare room, surrounded by 3 boxes that contained everything he owned, eating instant noodles from a mug because he didn't have a bowl. He was not dramatic about it. He did not cry. He sat there, eating noodles, and looked at the wall, and thought with remarkable clarity. This is the bottom. Right here. This exact moment. This is it. And then, almost immediately after, good. Now I know where the floor is. That was the thing about Nathan that nobody who looked at him from the outside would have guessed. He was not loud. He was not charismatic. He was not the kind of man who walked into rooms and changed the temperature. He was quietly, almost dangerously determined. The kind of determined that doesn't announce itself. The kind that simply does not stop. He had grown up in a household that ran on subtraction. His father, a decent man with a talent for bad timing, had spent Nathan's entire childhood starting businesses that almost worked. A printing shop that opened 6 months before digital disruption hit. A hardware store that launched 3 blocks from where a major chain set up operations. A food stall that thrived for 2 years before the landlord tripled the rent. Nathan had watched his father rebuild the same dream 5 times with the same materials and the same result, and he had learned 2 things from it. The first, that wanting something is not the same as knowing how to get it. The second, that a man who keeps trying, even badly, even wrongly, is not a failure. He is unfinished. Nathan intended to finish. Part 2. The first decision. He spent the first week in his brother's spare room doing something that looked, from the outside, like nothing. He sat at a second-hand desk he borrowed from the hallway and wrote. Not a business plan, not yet. He wrote everything he knew, every skill he had, every job he'd held, every problem he had personally experienced in the world and had no good solution for. He filled 12 pages. Then he read them back slowly, the way you read a map when you are genuinely lost, looking for the one road that goes somewhere. On page 9, he had written, "No one in this city has a reliable, affordable service for same-day document delivery for small businesses. Courier companies are too expensive. Email is fine until you need an original signature, a physical contract, a real stamp on a real piece of paper." He stared at that line for a long time. Then he borrowed $300 from his brother, who lent it without asking questions, which was the greatest kindness anyone had ever shown him, and he bought a second-hand bicycle, a waterproof backpack, and a box of plastic document sleeves. He printed 50 flyers at a copy shop, walked into the commercial district of his city, and personally handed them to the receptionists of 50 small businesses. Not emailed, not posted, handed, with eye contact and a simple sentence. If you ever need a document somewhere in this city within 2 hours, call this number. His phone rang 4 days later. A small law firm needed a signed affidavit delivered to a courthouse across town within 90 minutes. Nathan delivered it in 62. The firm called him again the next day, and the day after that. By the end of the first month, he had 11 regular clients and was earning more than he had at his old job. He did not celebrate. He reinvested every dollar back into the operation, better equipment, a proper phone, a simple website built on a free platform at 2 in the morning. He slept 6 hours a night and spent the rest building. This was his first decision, to start with what he had, not wait for what he wished he had. Part 3. The man in the coffee shop. 6 months in, Nathan met Gerald Osei. It was not a planned meeting. Nathan had stopped at a coffee shop between deliveries. His first sit-down coffee in weeks, a small reward he had promised himself, and had accidentally taken the last available seat, which happened to be at a small corner table already occupied by a compact, gray-haired man in his 60s who was reading a physical newspaper with the focused attention of someone defusing a bomb. Nathan apologized. The man waved it off without looking up. They sat in companionable silence for 20 minutes. Then the man folded his newspaper with the precise movements of someone who has done the same thing 10,000 times, looked at Nathan with direct, assessing eyes and said, "You look like someone who is building something." Nathan blinked. "How can you tell? You have been checking your phone every 4 minutes, but not with the expression of someone waiting for entertainment. You have the expression of someone waiting for information they need." The man extended a hand. "Gerald, I am semi-retired. I have too much time and occasionally useful opinions." Nathan shook it. "Nathan, I run a courier service." "How long?" 6 months. "Revenue?" Nathan told him. Gerald nodded slowly. Not impressed, not dismissive but thoughtful, the way an experienced navigator looks at a compass. "You are undercharging," he said. "I'm trying to build the client base first. You are training your clients to believe your service is worth less than it is. That is a lesson that is very expensive to undo." He picked up his coffee. "What is your plan for the next 6 months? And for the next 40 minutes?" In a coffee shop between deliveries, Nathan's understanding of what he was building shifted permanently. Gerald had spent 30 years building and selling logistics companies across 3 continents. He was not famous. He was not the kind of man whose name appeared in magazines. But he understood, with the bone-deep certainty of lived experience, how value was created, protected, and grown. "The second decision you need to make," Gerald said, just before Nathan had to leave for his next delivery, "is whether you are building a job or building a business. Because right now, if you stop pedaling, everything stops. That is a job. A business runs when you are not there." Nathan carried those words with him on every delivery for the next 3 weeks. If you found this story meaningful so far, don't forget to support the channel by hitting the like button and subscribing. It helps us continue creating inspiring stories that bring meaningful insights and fresh perspectives. Now, let's continue with the next lesson. Part 4. The second and third decisions. The second decision came 3 weeks later, to stop doing everything himself and start building a system. It was terrifying. He had almost no margin. Every dollar he spent on hiring felt like a dollar removed from the foundation of something still fragile. But Gerald's words had taken root. If you stop pedaling, everything stops. And Nathan understood that the ceiling of what he could build alone was already visible from where he stood. He hired one person, a young man named Darius who owned his own bicycle and needed flexible hours around his evening classes. Nathan trained him for 4 days, created a simple checklist for every delivery, and then, on the 5th day, sent Darius out alone. He spent that entire day unable to sit still. Darius made every delivery. On time. No complaints. That evening, Nathan sat with his notebook and wrote at the top of a new page. "A system is just your best process written down and given to someone else." Within 4 months, he had 5 writers. The business ran on weekends without him touching it. The third decision arrived when a mid-sized company offered him a contract that would triple his revenue overnight, but required him to guarantee 50 daily deliveries, a volume he could not yet meet. He could have said no, the safe choice, the careful choice. Instead, he said, "Give me 3 weeks." He spent those 3 weeks recruiting, training, and building a reserve team. He called in every favor. He worked days he had not planned to work. He slept less than he should have. On the first day of the contract, he delivered 53 documents. The third decision. Say yes to the thing that requires you to become bigger than you currently are, and then grow into it. Part 5. The year everything broke. Year 2 was the year Nathan almost lost everything he had built. Not because of one catastrophic event. Because of 100 small things that arrived simultaneously, the way problems always do, as if they had been waiting for each other before making their entrance. His best writer quit without notice to take a salary job. A client who represented 20% of his revenue switched to a larger national company. His second-hand van, he had graduated to a van by this point, broke down twice in the same month. And then, in October, a new competitor launched in the city, Well-funded, well-marketed, and charging prices that Nathan could not match without losing money on every delivery. For the first time since that Sunday evening with the instant noodles, Nathan felt genuinely afraid. He called Gerald. They met at the same coffee shop. Nathan laid out the situation without dramatizing it. The numbers, the losses, the competitors' pricing, the client defections. He spoke for 12 minutes. Then he stopped. Gerald was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Tell me about the clients who stayed." Nathan listed them. 11 businesses that had not left despite the cheaper alternative now available to them. "Why did they stay?" Gerald asked. Nathan thought about it. "Because they trust us. We know their names. We know their deadlines. When something goes wrong, we call them before they notice." Gerald nodded. "That is your business. Not the deliveries. The relationship." He leaned forward. "The competitor can match your price. They cannot immediately match your trust. So stop competing on price. Go deeper on trust." It was not a complicated insight, but it arrived at exactly the moment Nathan needed it, the way the right word in the right moment can reroute an entire life. He did not try to match the competitor's prices. Instead, he went personally to each of his remaining 11 clients and asked a simple question. "What is the one thing about our service that you would never want us to change?" The answers were specific and consistent. Reliability, communication, the fact that they always spoke to a real person. He built his next phase around those three things. He hired a part-time coordinator whose only job was client communication. He created a guarantee, something no competitor offered, that if a delivery was late due to his team's error, the client paid nothing. Within 8 months, he had recovered every lost client and added 9 more. The competitor, it turned out, had been burning through investment capital to sustain its low pricing. 18 months after launching, it quietly folded. Nathan did not gloat. He sent a handwritten note to every single one of his clients thanking them for their loyalty. Part 6. The fourth, fifth, and sixth decisions. The fourth decision came in year 3, to stop managing and start leading. There is a difference, a vast, often misunderstood difference between a manager and a leader. A manager controls process. A leader builds people. Nathan had become, without realizing it, an excellent manager and a mediocre leader. He knew every system inside out, but he did not know what his team members wanted from their lives. He did not know what they were afraid of. He did not know why they came to work beyond the paycheck. He started finding out, one conversation at a time, not as a strategy, as genuine interest. And what he discovered transformed his team from a group of competent individuals into something that functioned like a single, motivated organism. Darius, his first hire, wanted eventually to run his own business. Nathan began mentoring him, sharing financial information he had previously kept private, teaching him what he himself had learned about systems and client relationships. Within a year, Darius was effectively running day-to-day operations, freeing Nathan to think about what came next. The fifth decision, in year 4, to expand into a space where no competitor yet existed. Medical document delivery. Hospitals, clinics, and specialist practices had the same need as law firms and businesses. Urgent, reliable, confidential delivery, but with additional requirements around compliance and handling that generic courier services were not equipped to meet. Nathan spent 4 months learning those requirements inside out. He hired someone with a healthcare administration background. He built a protocol that met every regulatory standard. When he approached his first medical client, he was not selling a delivery service. He was selling certainty, peace of mind, the knowledge that a critical pathology report would arrive where it needed to go, when it needed to get there, handled exactly as it needed to be handled. The medical division became, within 18 months, the most profitable part of his business. The sixth decision, in year 5, to pay himself last. Not as martyrdom, as philosophy. Every dollar the business generated beyond operating costs went back into the business first. Better technology, better training, better people. Before Nathan took more than he needed to live modestly. He drove the same car for 4 years. He ate lunch at his desk most days. He did not own things that required maintenance, attention, or performance. He was not poor. He was not depriving himself. He simply understood something that most people learn too late. That the business in its early years needs more than you do. Feed it first. It will feed you later and far beyond what you could have taken from it early. Part 7. The Seventh Decision. Year 7. Nathan Cole was 33 years old. His company, now formally named Cole Logistics, operated in 4 cities, employed 61 people, and had just received an acquisition offer from a national logistics group that valued the business at a number Nathan had once only encountered in other people's stories. He sat with the offer for 2 weeks. He read it 17 times. He ran the numbers in every direction. He talked to his accountant, his lawyer, and Gerald, who was now 71 and had recently started growing vegetables in his retirement garden with the same methodical intensity he had once applied to building companies. "What does the number feel like?" Gerald asked when Nathan called him. "Like proof," Nathan said, after a moment. "Proof that it was real, that it wasn't luck." "It wasn't luck," Gerald said simply. "But that is not a reason to sell." "What is your reason to sell?" Nathan thought. "Because I think I can build something larger with their infrastructure than I can alone." Gerald was quiet for a moment. Then, "That is a reason." The seventh decision, to know when the next level requires a different vehicle. He negotiated the acquisition terms over 6 weeks. He protected his team. Every one of his 61 employees was guaranteed employment for a minimum of 3 years, a condition he refused to move on regardless of the pressure applied. He retained a minority stake and an advisory role. He ensured that the things that had made Cole Logistics what it was, the relationship culture, the guarantee, the human-first communication, were contractually embedded in how the acquiring company would operate the brand. On the day the deal closed, he called Darius, who by now was running his own small delivery operation in a neighboring city, something Nathan had quietly helped him start, and told him the news. Darius was silent for a moment. Then, "You kept your word." Nathan had, years earlier, promised Darius that when the time came, he would help him start his own thing. He had kept that promise in full, with capital, with mentorship, with introductions, with time. "You taught me that," Nathan said. "I just paid it forward." Part 8. The morning after. The week after the deal closed, Nathan did something he had not done in 7 years. He took a full week off. He went to the coast. He rented a small house with a view of the water. He brought no laptop. He brought books he had been meaning to read for 3 years. He cooked his own meals. He slept 8 hours. On the 3rd morning, sitting on the small porch with coffee, watching the light move on the water, he thought about his father. His father, the man who had rebuilt the same dream 5 times. Who had taught him, without meaning to, that a man who keeps trying is not a failure. He is unfinished. Nathan called him. They talked for an hour. Nathan told him about the acquisition, not the number, just the fact of it. His father was quiet for a long moment after. "I always knew you would do something," his father said finally. Not with the voice of a man who had predicted this. With the voice of a man who had hoped for it. "You taught me," Nathan said. "I taught you what not to do," his father said, with the gentle self-awareness of a man who had made peace with his story. "No," Nathan said. "You taught me that not stopping is everything. I just found better roads." The 7 decisions. Looking back, Nathan could trace the architecture of everything he had built to 7 moments. 7 decisions, each one terrifying in its own way, each one the difference between staying where he was and becoming what he became. The first, start with what you have, not what you wish you had. The second, stop doing everything yourself and build a system. The third, say yes to the thing that requires you to grow, then grow into it. The fourth, stop managing and start leading. Know your people, not just your processes. The fifth, find the space where no one else is yet, and fill it completely. The sixth, pay your business first in its early years, and it will pay you beyond what you could have taken early. The seventh, know when the next level requires a different vehicle, and negotiate from your values, not just your valuation. None of these were secrets. None of them were genius. They were, each of them, simply the choice to move forward when stopping was easier, to grow when shrinking was safer, to trust when certainty was unavailable. This is, in the end, what building something always is. Not talent, not luck, not the right connections or the right moment or the right idea. It is the decision made again and again to keep going. There is a moment, and every person who has ever built something from nothing knows this moment, where you are standing at the edge of everything you have ever wanted, and the only thing between you and it is one decision you are terrified to make. Now you know what to do with that moment. Make the decision, then make the next one, and the one after that. The road is built one decision at a time. It always has been. It always will be. If the story moved something in you, share it with someone who is standing at their own edge right now. Someone who needs to hear that the floor they are standing on is not the ceiling. Like this video, subscribe for more stories like this one, and leave a comment telling us, which of the 7 decisions do you need to make right now? We read every single one.